Thank you, President. My question today is for the Attorney-General. The Victorian Aboriginal Legal Services stated in a recent budget submission that without adequate funding, they may have to withdraw from the Aboriginal Justice Agreement and cut services. So it was disappointing to see that despite VALS having developed their Aboriginal Justice Hub model in response to the Victorian Government's own priorities for integrated and tailored local services, the funding announced was woefully inadequate. The funding asked was for just over $26 million. To put that in perspective, that's equivalent to the cost of keeping 224 people in prison in Victoria each year. Given many won't be able to access culturally appropriate legal services, does the government expect the incarceration rates to increase amongst Aboriginal Victorians?
Attorney-General.
Thank you, President, and I thank Ms Patten for her question. And I draw to the attention of the House that this year's budget delivered a record $448 million of investment for Aboriginal people and statewide healing, including $98 million for Victoria's commitments for self-determination, truth and treaty alone. It's a fantastic outcome from a government that is committed to righting the wrongs of the past and working with our Aboriginal communities and advocates in self-determination practices for the betterment of our First Nations people. We are certainly keen to work with VALS and continue to do so to help them start their place-based delivery model. There was $2 million of extra funding for a pilot program to establish the first of their new centres, which will lay the foundation for the groundwork for the evidence of future expansion. On top of the 2.16 it was, there was further one-off funding in last year's budget for steps for planning and implementing the model. So planning, implementing, pilot and continue to work with them on the expansion of to other locations as is their aim, and we're certainly keen to help support that.
Ms Patten on a supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Minister. It certainly seems that, from what I'm gathering from this, is that you're still keen for them to deliver a place-based model, just not now. But had they been funded, they would have been able to open in Mildura, Warrnambool, Bendigo, Wodonga, the Latrobe Valley, with satellite offices in Horsham, Geelong, Shepparton, Bairnsdale and Frankston. And they certainly, from my meetings with them, they certainly felt that they were ready to go. They didn't need to continue with the pilot. So by supplementary, I'd ask, will you meet with the Victorian Aboriginal Services to assess how they can continue to participate in the Aboriginal Justice Agreement and find a new path forward to sustain the funding that they need?
Attorney General.
Thank you, President and Ms Patten. The answer would be yes. We have had regular, very intensive engagement with VALS and other organisations that provide justice services, particularly to Aboriginal people. I met with Jura last week, and in relation to VALS, they've had regular contact with my office, and there has been correspondence that has certainly encouraged them to work with us on finding pathways for sustainable funding models for some of the things that they want to do, and a pilot is a great way to demonstrate your project and how it can be expanded to further locations. But just to correct your supplementary, there is funding of $2 million in this year's budget, which can create a regional hub and then can be expanded to other locations. That would be one, that's correct, but that is also a great pathway to further expansions.